Jon Snow grew up in Winterfell, but he was never truly one of them. He sparred alone in the Godswood, swinging his sword until his arms went numb. His father had returned from the rebellion and brought Theon Greyjoy, an arrogant thorn who behaved as if he were the Lord of Winterfell. Jon was glad to see his father again, waiting with the others, Robb, Sansa, and Lady Stark with little Arya in her arms. His father dismounted, kissed his wife, took Arya in his arms and whispered, "You will be a warrior." Then he hugged Robb, kissed Sansa on the forehead, and finally came to Jon, but his genuine smile vanished. Jon embraced him and whispered, "I missed you, father." His father pulled back, smiled at him, but his gaze was cold. In the Great Hall, Jon ate meat with honey while Robb teased him, "You eat too fast." One of the lords was watching him, the same one from the gate. Later, Ser Roderick told them to spar earlier than usual. In the training yard, Jon noticed mocking looks, but when the fight began, he struck Ser Roderick twice, leaving everyone gaping. Roderick began to strike harder, but Jon danced around, dodged, saw an opening, and hit him in the shoulder. Roderick struck back at Jon's left arm, harder than intended, and Jon fell. Helped him up, and he noticed some lords looking at him with respect. He raised his eyes to the balcony, expecting a smile from his father, but his father looked as if someone had thrown cold water in his face. Lady Stark was furious, and his dinner became salty again. For a whole month he slept hungry. Robb, ever since Theon appeared, called him only bastard or Snow and spent more time with the Ironborn than with Jon. Jon felt alone. He told no one about his dreams, neither about his mother nor about the enormous dragon. One night he dreamed that he was in the training yard and a raven was watching him. Jon chased it. The raven flew into the crypts, stopped before the statue of Aunt Lyanna, then vanished into the darkness. Jon turned and saw two giant blue eyes, a creature larger than a castle, white as ice. The dragon opened its mouth and breathed blue flame, but Jon did not burn. The flame only danced around his body. Then he heard an old voice saying something he could not understand. Jon woke up, looked out the window, and saw a raven with 3 eyes. Years passed. Jon barely spoke to his father. Lady Stark hated him. Sansa avoided him. Robb spent his time with the Ironborn. Only Arya wanted to be with him. She chased him, grabbed his leg, begged him to read her stories about Visenya Targaryen. One day Lord Howland Reed approached him, called him Jon, not Snow, and said he wanted to speak alone. Jon led him to the Godswood. Howland asked, "Are you happy, Jon?" Jon did not know what to say. The Lord touched his ragged clothes. Tears stood in his eyes. "Jon, would you like to leave?" he asked. "This is my home," Jon answered. Howland embraced him, wept, and then promised to bring him food and better clothes. In time, Jon began to have strange dreams. Once he stood alone in the dark, and then he saw a man sitting in a tree very old. "Greetings, my child," the old man said. "Who are you?" Jon asked. "My name is Brynden Rivers, my child. You are here because I brought you. I will help you unlock your abilities. Have you ever heard of warging?" Jon remembered old Nan's tales of ancient kings who saw through the eyes of beasts. "You have the blood of the first men," Bloodraven said. "When you wake, try to warg into a small animal, like a rat." Jon awoke and remembered everything. He tried to control rats, but failed. Then he began feeding them cheese and bread. After 3 days, he focused on one rat and suddenly found himself inside it. He was overjoyed. When he met Bloodraven again in a dream, the old man said, "Now try a cat, and then an animal of your choice with which you have no bond." Jon trained for weeks, learned to warg a cat, and then decided to try a bird he had long wanted to fly. After many attempts, he finally managed to enter a bird, which later rested on the top of his head. "You're beautiful," he said, trying to look up. He began spending more and more time alone. Only occasionally did he spar with Robb, but he let Robb win. He read in the library, but always made time for little Arya. Sansa avoided him. His father paid him no attention. Jon stopped trying to win his love. One day his father said, "Tomorrow, Robb, Ser Roderick, Jory, and I are going hunting, and I want you to come with us." Jon noticed Lady Stark's cold looks. The hunt yielded no game, but his father glanced at him from time to time. 9 months passed. Jon was hunting alone in the woods. He saw a rabbit, closed his eyes and warged into it, then returned to his own body and shot an arrow straight into the creature's chest. As he walked toward his kill, a giant wolf emerged from the bushes. Jon trembled, realizing he could not run. He closed his eyes and tried to warg into the wolf. The beast fought back, but Jon did not give up and finally took control. The huge animal sat on the ground and looked at him. Jon threw it the rabbit. The wolf ate it, then came closer and began to lick his finger. "Your name will be Winter," Jon said, hardly believing he now had a direwolf. Time passed. Winter grew to the size of a horse. Jon regularly went into the forest to hunt, unable to bear the cold stares of Winterfell. Some of the household even called him the Hungry Wolf, which made Lady Stark despise him even more. She made his food salty, but Jon did not care. He provided for himself. Bran was born, but Jon saw him only 3 times. Arya begged him to take her along, but she was only 3 name days old. Robb spent almost almost no time with him, preferring the company of the Ironborn. Jon thought bitterly that the heir to Winterfell was friends with someone no one liked, and his father saw nothing wrong with it. Bloodraven had not appeared in his dreams for 2 months. The last time, he had told Jon to try warging into 5 different animals. Jon managed it within a month, but his teacher did not come. When Jon asked what it was all for, Bloodraven only answered, "You must prepare." One day Ned Stark watched Robb and Jon spar. Even he, no great warrior, could see that Jon was barely trying against Robb. "Come on, Snow. There's no shame in losing to a trueborn. Stop dancing," Robb taunted. Catelyn stood nearby, smiling. Then Jon swung harder and faster, knocked the sword from Robb's hand, and raised his own to Robb's throat. "If that's true, Stark, then imagine how it feels to lose your pride to a bastard," he said. Catelyn growled in fury. Ned invited Jon to his chamber. "I saw you today. I am impressed. Have you thought about your future?" Jon answered coldly, "I don't know, my lord. Perhaps I'll go south, become a knight, and if I'm lucky, a Kingsguard." Ned's blood froze. "What about the Night's Watch?" he asked. "Why should I waste my life among rapists and thieves?" Jon replied. Ned said that Benjen would come and stay for 2 weeks, but Jon barely reacted. Ned noticed that Jon had not once called him father. "You know you may call me father when we are alone," he said. "You have never shown any interest in me, so why should I call you father?" Jon answered and left. That night, Bloodraven appeared to Jon again. "What should I do next?" Jon asked. "Better ask where you should go. I want you to go to the wall. There is someone there who can help you learn who you are. When you go, say these words to the Maester of Castle Black. The 7 kingdoms must be ruled by Aegon, not Egg. Kill the boy Egg and let Aegon be born." Jon prepared for his journey. He knew his uncle Benjen would come, but Bloodraven had said he could not wait. Arya noticed that Jon hardly stayed in Winterfell anymore. She begged him to take her into the Wolfswood, but he refused. One night she waited for him with a book, and he came, read her the tale of Nymeria. She fell asleep, and when she woke in the morning, he was gone. She began to cry. That day Jon had slept in the forest. His father shouted at him and ordered him to stay in the castle. Jon replied, "Winterfell may be everything, but it is not my home. You and your wife have made sure it never would be." Arya ran to him, hugged his legs, begging him to stay. Jon kissed her and whispered, "I love you, little sister." Jon left. He headed for the wall, but first he stopped at Greywater Watch to see Howland Reed. Howland confessed that he had sent a letter to the king. "Thank you, Lord Reed," Jon said. "Thank you for everything you have done for me. Did you know my mother?" Howland smiled and told him about Lyanna. Then Jon climbed the wall. At Castle Black, he asked for an audience with Maester Aemon Targaryen. The old blind Maester listened, and when Jon spoke the secret words, Aemon trembled. He asked permission to touch the boy's face and felt the features of Egg. "You are not Jon Snow," he said. "You are Jaehaerys Targaryen, son of Rhaegar and Lyanna. Your true name is Jaehaerys." Jaehaerys did not know what to feel. He stayed at the castle only a short while, then went beyond the wall. There he found a dragon, white as snow with eyes of molten gold. The dragon raised its head and roared, but Jaehaerys was not afraid. He felt his blood sing, and he whispered, "Bloodfire." The dragon bowed its head, and the boy climbed onto its back. It flew. Jaehaerys saw beyond the wall an army of the dead with blue eyes. Then Bloodfire carried him to a huge weirwood tree, where the children of the forest and Bloodraven himself awaited. The Bloodraven called him the Song of Ice and Fire, and gave him the sword Dark Sister. "When the time comes, we shall meet again," he said. Meanwhile, in King's Landing, Rhaegar Targaryen sat in a small council meeting. Varys reported that the Golden Company was moving toward Volantis and might be supporting a Blackfire. Then he added, "Dragons. My little birds and some people in the Stormlands claim to have seen dragons." Rhaegar did not believe it, but at that moment the door opened and a maester handed him a letter from the north, sealed with the sigil of Howland Reed. Rhaegar began to read. His hand trembled. Tears rolled down his cheeks. Elia asked what was wrong, but he could not answer. Finally, he lowered his face to the table. "Lyanna, she had a boy, not a girl," he whispered, "and her boy survived. All this time he has been alive. Jon Snow, the bastard son of Eddard Stark, he is truly the son of Lyanna and mine. His name is Jaehaerys Targaryen." Elia read the letter aloud. Howland wrote that Ned Stark had entered the Tower of Joy and come out with a boy, raising him as his own bastard. Jon had long dark hair with curls, dark gray eyes, and a long face. He was still at Winterfell. Arthur Dayne urged them to march north at once and take Lord Stark's head. But Rhaegar's mother, Rhaella, stopped them. "We cannot start a war. If we execute Stark, the North will rise. We must gather all the lords and explain his crimes. The only way to do that without arousing suspicion is to hold a tournament, the greatest tournament ever, at Harrenhal." Rhaegar ground his teeth but agreed. "Send letters to every lord. The tournament must take place in 3 weeks." Elia swore, "We will bring him back. We will bring fire and blood to all who have hurt him." And Rhaella Rhaella secretly met with Varys and ordered him to send more spies to the north to learn everything about the bastard whose true name was Jaehaerys Targaryen. At the same time, Benjen Stark, returning to the Wall, saw a dragon in the sky. He met his nephew, who now called himself Jaehaerys. Together they rode to Winterfell. Jaehaerys rode through the gates on the back of his direwolf, Winter. Ned Stark was stunned, and Arya ran to embrace her brother. Catelyn screamed to kill the beast, but Ned did not dare. Jon looked at him with such fury that Ned felt a chill. In the Great Hall, Jaehaerys spoke to no one but Arya. When Theon insulted him, calling him son of a whore, Jon's eyes turned pure green, and thunder rolled outside. Benjen intervened, and Jaehaerys left. That night, Benjen spoke with Ned. Jon reminds me of Lyanna. Know the truth. You stole the son of her husband, and you allowed him to be treated worse than a Greyjoy. Ned paled. He knew the secret was out. Still, he resolved that in 2 years he would send Jon to the Wall. Jaehaerys went down into the crypts that same night to the statue of his mother. He placed a winter rose in her hands and wept. He sang her gentle mother and swore he would return. At dawn, he walked back into the forest to his dragon, because in King's Landing they were already waiting for him. Rhaegar, having received the letter, knew his son was alive and soon they would meet.